Recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'd like to thank the witnesses for being here. And just to piggyback on what the ranking member was talking about in terms of the Portal Bridge, I had the opportunity to go out to the Portal Bridge and visit that piece of infrastructure. And we're talking about a bridge that was designed in the 1800s and constructed around 1910. And this bridge, if it goes down, stops traffic between Massachusetts and Florida. This one bridge. I mean, the only thing, and if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Picari, all the other funding is in place except for the federal part of that. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And so this is something that, from my understanding, is shovel-ready with the input of the federal government's dollars, that we can start on this project, create the 4 lanes that are necessary, and to make sure that this vital piece of infrastructure does not hamper the entire Northeast coast. Am I correct?
That's correct. It's not only shovel-ready, it's shovel-worthy. I like to describe it as a single point of failure for 10% of America's GDP, because that's really what that bridge is. As I mentioned in my testimony, we'll be doing early construction activities, pre-construction work this summer on the site, building an access road, retaining walls, and the like. We are ready to go, and it's 100% permitted, designed, and ready for bid.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman, I hope that we could really bring attention to how vital this single bridge is. I mean, they actually have to, it swivels, and when it goes back, it never, 9 times out of 10, it does not go back into position. They have to contact someone, a technician, to come up there, actually sometimes with a sledgehammer, and knock the track back into place. And this is a bridge between Florida and Massachusetts that, if it's down, everything is stifled, it's cut off. And I think that the only thing that is holding it up is our input. So I hope we can take a look at that, just so you can understand and the committee can understand how vital this really is. So let's see. And Mr. Moorman, as as a regular Amtrak rider myself and a believer in the potential of intercity rail, and I really appreciate the unique and critical role Amtrak plays in my region and for the entire country. I also understand that Congress's inability or unwillingness to come up with the reliable funding stream for Amtrak since its inception has contributed to your company's shortcomings in updating infrastructure. And, we want to focus on that aging infrastructure. Earlier this spring, there were a couple derailments at New York Penn Station. As a matter of fact, I was on the platform in Newark for one of those derailments, waiting to come to Washington. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured. The more significant derailment, delays for a week, and has, it led to Amtrak's accelerated infrastructure renewal plan. You mentioned in your testimony, while it is correct that Amtrak passengers will suffer the greatest impact of this plan proportionally, I also know that New Jersey Transit customers will be impacted will far outpace Amtrak's. So how did Amtrak's infrastructure at Penn Station get to this point, and how do we ensure that the infrastructure failures don't continue to hamstring commuters?
That's an excellent question. I would tell you that I think Amtrak got to this point over a period of years, particularly in the 1990s and the 2000s when it was not funded adequately, and as a result, we did not do the renewal work that should have been done, not only in Penn Station, but in a lot of the corridor. We started that renewal process a few years ago when our funding levels improved, but we were trying to do it essentially on the weekends because there's been a great understandable unwillingness to do work that disrupts the weekday traveler. But this second derailment, the more disruptive one that you talked about, occurred, and quite frankly, I went down and started looking around in the station. It is a terrifically difficult place to work. There are trains 24 hours a day. It's a maze of track work. But based on the conditions I saw and other people who have expertise that I trust saw, we came to the conclusion that trying to kind of piecemeal this on weekends for the next few years would create more situations where we would have disruptive events, unplanned events, and we needed to go ahead and take aggressive action to renew the infrastructure, and that's what we're doing this summer.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. Mr. Webster, I recognize.